Hi students, today our topic is hypertension. Yes, we are very familiar with this term. Hypertension means all of us know that it is increased blood pressure. Okay, this increased blood pressure means either it may be increased in systolic blood pressure or it may be increased in diastolic blood pressure. So eventually we will call that as increased blood pressure. So what is the systolic rate and what is the diastolic rate? Yes, systolic means 120, normal 120 and 80. All of us know that the basic terms, this is the basic terms, that systolic is a 120, for measuring blood pressure the normal rate is 120 by 80 mmHg. And if you go for the classification of the hypertension, there are four types of hypertension. Normal hypertension, pre-hypertension means stage before the hypertension, and stage 1 hypertension and stage 2 hypertension. Okay, if we see here what are the normal range beyond this systolic and diastolic is, for normal hypertension it is less than 120 mmHg in systolic, and in diastolic it is less than 80 mmHg. And in case of pre-hypertension, the systolic range is 120 to 129 mmHg and diastolic range is less than 80 mmHg. And in case of the stage 1 hypertension, we can observe the 130 to 139 mmHg of systolic pressure and 80 to 89 mmHg of diastolic pressure. And in case of stage 2 hypertension, we can say greater than or equal to 140 mmHg of systolic pressure and greater than or equals to 90 mmHg of diastolic pressure. So this is about the definition and classification of the hypertension. What is it? Hypertension means elevated systolic pressure or elevated diastolic pressure, and these are the normal range value of the classification of the hypertension. And now what are the causes of the hypertension? Okay, if we see the causes of hypertension, there is first we can see the primary hypertension, which is the essential, which we call that as an essential hypertension. Most 95% of the cases refers to this primary hypertension, and mostly it occurs between the age gap of 25 to 55 years of age. And what are the main causes that occurs to, means if a patient is developing a blood pressure, what are the main causes? Means the first one is increased sympathetic nervous system activity. Okay, what do you mean by this? What is the sympathetic nervous system activity? Means due to this increased sympathetic nervous system activity, it releases the norepinephrine into the different receptors on the smooth muscles. We know that every artery will have a surrounding by the muscle layer, that is smooth muscle layer. So this increased activity of the sympathetic nervous system, it releases the norepinephrine, and it leads to the due to on the release of the norepinephrine, it leads to the vasoconstriction. So as a result of vasoconstriction, what happens here? It increases the total peripheral resistance, and therefore it leads to the blood pressure. We know that blood pressure is cardiac output into peripheral resistance. We call that as a cardiac output together with the peripheral resistance results in the blood pressure. If there is an increase in the peripheral resistance or there is an increase in the cardiac output, it eventually leads to the blood pressure. So here, due to increased total peripheral resistance, it leads to the increased BP. Is it clear? So due to this increased sympathetic nervous system, upon releasing of the norepinephrine, there occurs a vasoconstriction which leads to the total peripheral resistance, and then to the occurs BP. And the second one is due to increased sensitivity of the renin angiotensin aldosterone axis, RAAS. We call it as RAS. RAS mechanism means renin angiotensin aldosterone axis. So due to this increased activity, what will happen? This release the renin. Due to the overproduction of this renin, there is an increased angiotensin 2 production. So this increased angiotensin 2 production will leads to the increased BP. And the next one is, if we go for the what are the changes in the heart, means how heart causes BP, means when it is acting on the heart, it acts on the, especially it acts on the SA node. What happens in the SA node? It increases the heart rate and it also increases the cardiac output. Is it clear? Okay, cardiac output, what happens if cardiac output increases? Yes, if cardiac output increases, it leads to the BP, increase in the BP. And when it is acting on the SA node, it also increases the contractility. What happens if there is an increased contractility? Means there is an increased stroke volume. Due to increased stroke volume, we can see the increased cardiac output. What is the relation between the stroke volume and cardiac output? Yes, for calculating cardiac output, there is a we need to calculate the heart rate and stroke volume. Okay, so due to increased contractility, the stroke volume is increased and cardiac output is increased, and also finally blood pressure increased. This is about the third one. And what happens if the, okay, we can see this, what is low renin hypertension. Okay, in what happens here means, in low renin hypertension, here we can see the decreased sodium excretion. Means if at all there is a less salt in the urine, that means more amount of the salt is retained in the blood. So it results in the decreased sodium excretion and increased sodium retention. These two gradually leads to the increased blood volume and increased BP. So this BP here again, it inhibits the renin angiotensin aldosterone system. So it means there is a low production of renin. If there is a low production of renin, then gradually there is a decreased renin angiotensin 2 production. If there is decreased renin angiotensin 2 production, there will be decreased BP. So this is a reverse mechanism. So we call this as a low renin hypertension. Okay, these are the primary causes of the primary hypertension. So next, what are the causes of the secondary hypertension? If we see, secondary hypertension means nothing but only few rare cases, that is about 5% of the cases is observed. Means why we call this secondary, means this occurs only due to the underlying diseases, means due to any any underlying causes. If hypertension occurs, then it is called as a secondary hypertension. So what are the diseases associated here is related to the kidney diseases, like if the patient is having glomerulonephritis or diabetic nephropathy or polycystic kidney disease, then the patient is more prone to get hypertension. So these are the underlying causes of the kidney. And kidney vascular disease means renal artery stenosis, vasculitis, and fibromuscular dysplasia. If we go to the adrenal gland, there is Conn's syndrome, Cushing syndrome, and pheochromocytoma. These are the underlying causes of the secondary hypertension. And if you go for the thyroid, it can occur due to the hyperthyroidism, and also it can occur due to the hypothyroidism based on the based upon the patient condition. And there is several reasons for hypo and hyperthyroidism to occur the hypertension. And also hyperparathyroidism also leads to the secondary hypertension. And coarctation aorta, Cushing triad. And if we come for the pregnancy, there is a gestational period of the pregnancy. That hypertension is called as preeclampsia and eclampsia. These are the two terms referred in the hypertension if in case of pregnant women. So other than these underlying diseases, what are the medications included to occur the secondary hypertension is oral contraceptive pills, antidepressants, or sometimes serotonins, and MAO inhibitors, means monoamino oxidase inhibitors. So these are the drugs which causes the secondary hypertension. So other than this, what is the hypertensive crisis? What is the differences in the hypertensive crisis? Difference between the normal hypertension and hypertensive crisis means, in hypertensive crisis, if we observe the systolic pressure is greater than 180 mm per Hg and the diastolic pressure is greater than 120 mm Hg. This hypertensive crisis is of two types. That is, the two terms involved is hypertensive urgency and hypertensive emergency. What is the difference here? In case of hypertensive urgency, there is no damage to the end organs like brain, kidneys, heart, lungs, means other related organs. In case of emergency, this mainly damages the end organs. So this is a difference between the hypertensive, normal hypertension and hypertensive crisis. So the next one is symptoms. If you go for the symptoms, general symptoms is a headache, drowsiness, but in case of, especially if you go for the primary symptoms, there is we cannot observe any symptoms. So, and in case of secondary, all the symptoms which are associated with the underlying disease, so symptoms for the secondary hypertension. And as there is no damage to the end organs in the urgency, there is no symptoms. And in case of emergency, if we see confusion, drowsiness, chest pain and breathlessness, etc., these are the few other symptoms which we see in the emergency condition of the hypertension. And what are the risk factors? The risk factors are especially related with the age group. That is, sedentary lifestyles includes alcohol or drug intake, or smoking, obesity, sleep apnea, and increased salt intake in our diet. So lack of physical exercise, all these together will cause other risk factors. Okay, if we see about the pathophysiology, before going to pathophysiology, we can clearly see these terms. Here BP means we have to see for the cardiac output and peripheral resistance. What is cardiac output? Cardiac output means the amount of the blood that each ventricle is pumping per minute. Cardiac output is calculated for per minute. Is it clear? Amount of the blood that each ventricle is pumping per minute. So for this, so for calculating cardiac output, we need heart rate and stroke volume. So heart rate is calculated for number of beats per minute. We know that how to calculate heart rate, that is number of beats per minute. And what about stroke volume? What is meant by stroke volume? Stroke volume means amount of blood that each ventricle is pumping with each contraction. We know that the heart will contract and relax. So we have to calculate for each contraction how much of amount of blood is pumped in the ventricle, pumped by the ventricle. So amount of blood that each ventricle is pumping with each contraction is known as stroke volume. So this amount of blood that is pumped with each contraction per number of beats per minute is together called as a cardiac output. So here we concluded the term cardiac output. And what is the peripheral resistance? Yes, the peripheral resistance means the amount of resistance to the blood flow. If for example, if there is an increased resistance to the blood flow, it's harder for the blood to get through the vessel. If it is an increased peripheral resistance, and if any, is it clear? If the peripheral resistance means the amount of the resistance to the blood flow. Yes, for example, if we see if there is an increased resistance to blood flow, then it will be hard for the blood to get through that vessel. So if any of these two factors, that is either peripheral resistance or cardiac output is increased, then it gradually, if any of these two factors affected, it will affect the BP. So there will be an increase in the BP. So here for the hypertension, the peripheral resistance is the main cause to increase the BP. Why it is main cause means due to this, due to an increase in the arteriolar vasoconstriction. Peripheral resistance is due to increased arterial vasoconstriction. It is the main cause of increasing in the BP. Okay, if we see here, for example, if we are taking the artery, we can see this. There is a differentiation between this. This is the endothelial layer and this is the smooth muscle layer. These are the two layers present in the artery. Endothelial layer is surrounded by a smooth muscle layer. The muscle, if we are referring the term muscle, we can this muscle itself can show us that there is a possibility of contraction. So if there is an if we see here, if there is an increased sympathetic activity, then due to this sympathetic nerve, due to this increased activity, as I told before, that sympathetic nervous system is releasing norepinephrine and epinephrine. Epinephrine we basically referred as adrenaline, that is going to cause constriction, or we can term that as a contraction or constriction of the smooth muscle layer. Due to the contraction of the smooth muscle layer, what happens? The lumen of the arteries, due to the contraction of this smooth muscle layer, the lumen of the arteries will get smaller. So there will be a less space for the blood to flow. If you see here, this is the normal blood flow, and after contraction, we can see the lumen of this activity is become reduced. Means there is a less amount of space for the blood to flow. So if okay, generally this is the wider arteries are wider here, arteries are narrower here. Is it means for the blood, is it comfortable for the blood to flow in the wider arteries or narrower arteries? Yes, in wider arteries it can flow freely, but in case of narrow arteries, the pressure will be increased for the blood to flow. So if the arteries are narrower, there is a more resistance to flow. There is eventually there we can see the increased peripheral resistance. As a result of it can cause blood pressure. So this is how normal artery is having how it is having pressure on it, and how the blood flow is affected by this, and how peripheral resistance is causing blood pressure. And if you see the vascular changes, what are the vascular changes in the hypertension? Here, this is a normal vessel with good blood flow. We can say there is no formation of plaque or no cholesterol, nothing, no blood clots, nothing. So in between the arteries or in between the blood vessels, the blood flow is clear. And as the hypertension progresses, we can see the vascular changes and remodeling and hypertrophy. What happens in this early stage? There is a build-up of the plaque formation. This green, assume that this green color is the formation of the plaque. Due to this plaque formation, we can observe the thickening of the vessel. So what happens in the late stage? In late stage, there is a more and more formation of the plaque due to the dysfunctioning of the endothelial vascular wall, and it also get hypertrophy, and all these changes results in the narrowing of the lumen and build up in the vascular pressure, that results in the aggravating the hypertension. So this is about the pathophysiology. If you go for diagnosis, we know that BP is measured by an instrument called sphygmomanometer, which measures systolic and diastolic pressure. And other than that, what are the investigative tests to be performed in case of hypertension is ECG to check for the whether activity of the heart, and electrical activity of the heart, and especially hypertension is related with all the diseases, so we should check the other related test, and echocardiogram, urinalysis, and serology test, like for the presence means for testing the plasma renin and plasma aldosterone, and thyroid function test, and also complete blood count. Apart from this, diabetic test, and all these tests are the normal routine tests to be performed in case of hypertension. So if we come to the treatment, the main treatment is lifestyle changes. There is diet, means to follow the restricted diet, that is low salt intake, and exercise, means limited exercise, and reducing the alcohol intake, and quit smoking, stress reduction. These are the some main lifestyle changes to be treated as a management of the hypertension. And the next one is antihypertensive medications to be, what are the medications to be followed. So if we go for the classification of antihypertensive agents, we can see ACE inhibitors, angiotensin receptor blockers, and calcium channel blockers, beta blockers, diuretics, vasodilators, alpha blockers, and alpha 2 agonists. So these are the different various classes of the drugs, and these are the based on these drugs we can select, based on the patient, individual patient, we can select the what is the most preferable drug for the condition. So this is about the hypertension. Thank you.